On All Hallows Eve, when the moon is agleam, the gays dissect films on a pod called Let's Scream.
Films with werewolves and demons, zombies and witches. Spooky season is here, so get ready, bitches.
Who will survive? Which divas go down when a killer named Michael is let loose on the town?
It's finally October, and spooky's the theme. Our one question for you is, Are you ready to scream?
Oh, God.
Oh, you good?
Girls, sorry about that. I don't know what was in my throat.
Come on, girl, let's scream.
I am a god.
No, please don't kill me, Mr. Ghostface. I want to be in the sequel. This is the part where you run.
Come on, scream.
Hello, and welcome to Let's Scream, a podcast where we dive into our favorite horror movies. I'm Parker.
And I'm Stevie.
And today, we're looking at 1978's Halloween, directed by John Carpenter.
Join us as we journey to Haddonfield and learn all about Michael Myers.
Are you ready to scream, girl?
Come on, girl. Let's scream.
Halloween, the original. I've been so excited because I love Halloween. I mean, come on.
It's one of the best.
It is. It's probably the most iconic horror movie.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, like, you watch it, like,
now.
the amount of things that were taken from this movie and used in other movies.
It's the blueprint.
Yeah.
It's the blueprint.
Yeah.
I watch it every year on Halloween.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like Halloween unless I have watched that movie on the 31st. This year, since we had to watch it for the podcast, I'll probably watch Halloween 2.
That one is good. That one is good.
And before we get into it, we should probably say, Happy Halloween. Thank you for listening to us this month. We hope you've enjoyed our spooky series. Let us know, because I think this podcast is coming out either on Halloween or like the day before. Do you have any fun plans for Halloween?
No.
No, I'm telling the viewers.
Oh.
That's staying in, bitch. That's staying in. Any viewers? We know Stevie doesn't have plans, but do you have plans? Are you dressing up? What are you going as? What scary movies are you watching? We want to know. We love hearing your comments. But yeah, have you watched any of the sequels to Halloween?
I've seen Halloween 2, and then I've seen all of the remakes from the past couple years.
Like the most recent trilogy?
The most recent 3. I haven't seen any of the other ones.
Yeah, it's a series.
It's a series.
Because I love this original, but like maybe 90% of the sequels are bad.
Yeah,
There's
of the ones I've
good
seen,
ones.
I only like 2 of the sequels, I would say.
Yeah.
Like, of the whole series, I like 3, because I loved the first one, obviously. And then I liked the second one, and then I liked the 2018.
Yeah, like the first of the new
That
trilogy.
one I thought was really good.
Same here. I like those ones too. And then I also like H2O, which you and I need to sit down and watch H2O at some point. That one's the first time Jamie Lee Curtis came back after a really long time.
Yes. Is that when she's like a college dean?
Teacher. And I think you'll...
Teacher?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or maybe she is
Dean
the Dean.
Munch?
It was the prelude to Dean Munch, for sure. Which, if you haven't seen Scream Queens, Jamie Lee Curtis is so funny as Dean Munch in Scream Queens.
That show.
But you would like H2O a lot because it's inspired by Scream. It's like a tribute to Scream and came out during the late 90s when Scream was like massive.
I love that.
I think that the original Halloween is nearly perfect.
Oh, it's perfect.
One of my absolute favorites.
It's like how I feel about Carrie.
Yes, it's definitely up there with Carrie as like
this is,
top
I think
horror
my top
movies.
3. I mean, obviously Sleepaway Camp 2 is my favorite.
You love Sleepaway Camp too, and I don't blame you. I love it.
Then I would say, I think, I love Carrie so much though.
I think Carrie's my favorite.
I think it's Carrie and then Halloween. But Halloween I just love also so much too.
Yeah. And Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
That one's great.
Probably
but
in my top 5.
I mean, oh yeah, because I love 70s. We've kind of like agreed on that, like
horror.
70s horror is the best.
It's just the best era. I mean, like, very simplistic storytelling.
It's just, yeah.
The memorable characters, great cinematography. Okay, well, Halloween. I mean, come on, the cinematography in this movie is genius. The way things
great.
are framed,
It's also the
lighting,
the score to the film,
the soundtrack.
the soundtrack.
I think it's the greatest. It's the greatest horror soundtrack.
It's iconic.
Okay, so I love how there's like different variations. So like, you've got the intro, which is the iconic dun 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 dun, and then you've got the na 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 dun 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 dun, and then there's the dun 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 dun, and then when he's like chasing and it's like dun dun. Dun dun.
It's so simplistic, but it just also goes into it so well.
It's a fabulously done movie. Michael Myers is, to me, the scariest.
Yeah, this is your scariest
horror character.
Movie.
Like,
I think he is too.
There's something about how
Because his face is so lifeless. It's the mask.
The eyes, yeah,
It's the eyes.
The eyes of
lifeless.
the mask. Also, just how like calculated he is, because like that's what sets him apart from Jason and makes me like him more than Jason. I think is that they're both silent killers and they're very like brutal, whatever. But like Jason will just walk into a room and kill a bitch right there. Michael's like, I'm gonna hide, I'm gonna stalk, I'm gonna watch you, I'm gonna fuck with you, and then I'm gonna pounce on you when you least expect it. And that freaks me the fuck out about Michael.
Yeah.
So we can go ahead and get into the backstory. I prepared a little
Like
diatribe.
such a beautiful, I just love this film.
And I like to do this. I mean, some people, maybe you can fast forward it. For these really important, impactful horror movies or just movies in general, like I like to give a little testimony to how they were made and really honor them, because often they have like the most interesting making of stories, I think. So it all started when John Carpenter was hired to direct a horror movie that took place on Halloween, and it was to be inspired by Peeping Tom, Psycho, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Black Christmas. And along with his longtime collaborator and then girlfriend at the time, the late Deborah Hill, wrote the screenplay in 10 days, which is originally called The Babysitter Murders. And it was, of course, later changed to Halloween, because it was always meant to be set on Halloween. Deborah Hill created mostly the female characters and scenes that included Laurie and her friends, and Carpenter worked on the spooky side of things and created the personification of evil, Michael Myers.
Heck yeah.
They had the tiniest little budget to work with, and they were only able to hire one big name actor, that was Donald Pleasence, who at that time was most notable for playing a Bond villain, the one named Blofeld, who would go on to inspire Dr. Evil in Austin Powers. And when you go back and you look at Donald Pleasence in James Bond, he has like that kind of Dr. Evil scar, and he's bald, and he looks like,
If you all have not watched Austin Powers, go watch at least the first two.
So originally, Christopher Lee was offered the role of Dr. Loomis, but he declined due to the small salary, which he later said was his biggest regret of his career. And if you are a Let's Scream listener, we have last seen the icon Christopher Lee in The Wicker Man. He was an old Summerisle in that one. So he could have been Dr. Loomis. And the rest of the cast were mainly unknown, with the exception of Miss P.J. Souls, who we last saw on our Carrie episode. She played my icon of that movie, Miss Norma with the baseball cap.
We love Norma.
And Jamie Lee Curtis, this was her first big movie. She was also mainly unknown, but she was cast for the connection to Psycho because her mother is Janet Leigh, who was the lead actress in Psycho.
Yeah.
Filming had to be done very quickly, and the crew was severely underpaid or just simply volunteers who wanted to get a start in the movie business and had to wear a lot of different hats on set. Most notably, a young Robert Englund volunteered to help rake up the fake leaves. He, of course, would go on to play Freddy Krueger. So even Freddy Krueger was involved in this movie.
Heck yes.
In fact, the leaves were like a huge point of contention during the making of this movie because they only had a couple bags of fake, like, dried leaves to make it look like fall.
Yeah.
Because it was shot in West Hollywood.
Yeah. So I will also say, if you watch this movie, there are scenes where you can see a palm tree.
Yeah, you totally can see a palm tree. A couple palm trees in this movie. But I think overall, they did a great job because, especially considering, they had like just these couple bagfuls of fake leaves. And what they would do is they had this big fan and we just kind of toss the leaves in front of the fan so that it looked like leaves were blowing in the wind.
Yeah.
And I think it definitely looks like fall in the Midwest. And also, they would just go through, rake the fake leaves up, and rebag them, and then use them for the next shot.
Yeah.
Because they only had the fucking one bag of leaves, which I think is really funny. It was just a very, like, ragtag group of kids working on this little project. Nick Castle was a friend of Carpenter's who happened to not be busy and visited the set looking for something to do, basically. And Carpenter convinced him to put on the mask and play Michael Myers. And he was only paid $25 a day. Which is wild to think about the fact that Michael Myers was only paid $25 a day. Nick Castle would go on to become a big-time director and screenwriter himself.
Good for him.
My favorite work of his? Dennis the Menace, bitch. He directed Dennis the Menace.
Heck yes.
Yeah. And the Michael Myers mask, famously, this is like the story that everyone knows if you're into horror movies, but it's a Captain Kirk / William Shatner mask that they found at the local Halloween store, and they spray painted it white, and then they like cut the eye holes to make them like wider and spookier and kind of tousled the hair a little bit. And the very last scene that they filmed was the first scene, the intro, using a very early version of the Steadicam technology that we know from our The Shining episode.
Yes.
Stanley Kubrick would go on to like perfect for that movie. And it gave us the iconic point of view killer shot. And Deborah Hill herself did the hand acting for young Michael. So that's like the producer, the writer of this movie playing Michael Myers.
I love that.
So everyone was just wearing multiple hats for this. And last but not least, the brilliant score was composed by John Carpenter himself on a synth keyboard. And the story goes that before he scored the film, the producers thought that in like early screenings, it looked really boring and not scary. And they're like, what the fuck is this? And they're like really worried about it. But after they saw it with the score, they were horrified and were like, oh no, this is fucking scary. Like, good job, basically.
Yeah, well, it helps build up the tension so much.
It's the perfect score. It's the perfect score. We'll get into it. But the film was made on a budget of $320,000 and was such a massive success and became one of the most grossing multi-million-dollar horror franchises. That it's like, I think it's like the biggest return on investment for a really long time for a movie up until like the Blair Witch Project, which we covered a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just crazy how little money that they had and how much money they made back on this movie.
Yeah.
And this movie launched many careers, most notably, of course, Jamie Lee Curtis, who is considered the ultimate scream queen in horror and an icon of not just the horror genre, but like of acting in general. I mean, she's like one of the most A-list actors. Halloween is one of the most influential horror movies of all time and is credited for solidifying the slasher as perhaps the most popular horror subgenre. It is constantly referenced and inspired countless movies and series such as Friday the 13th and even Scream. The character of Laurie Strode is often referred to as the ultimate final girl and is recognized for cementing the popularity of the final girl trope itself. So this movie has a huge legacy on top of all of that. And then lastly, I just want to get into some of the themes, which I tend to do this. If a movie has big themes, I'll just kind of give them up front, and that way we can just get into the meat of it. But I would say Halloween is constantly analyzed, and it has lots of academic works, which justifiably so. I think it says a lot. And there are mainly 3 themes or like kind of deeper meanings that stand out to me from my just very minimal research that I've done for this podcast. And I would say one is loss of innocence that occurs when we leave behind childhood and come face to face with the horrors of adulthood and reality. And I think that's personified by Laurie herself. You have the inevitability of fate, which is represented in many different ways, which we'll get into the plot. But I think most notably is in the score, there's a lot of like train sound effects and like weird like train noises interpolated into the score that I think symbolizes that fate is like a train that is set on a track. And we even see a train at one point. There's a scene where Dr. Loomis is on the phone at a payphone and there's a train going by.
Yeah.
And I don't think that wasn't intentional.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the most basic and obvious theme is the random and unexplainable nature of evil, personified by Michael Myers. Yeah. So I know that's like a lot. Hopefully I didn't like overload the pod too much with like fun facts or anything. No. But there's just like a lot to talk about with this movie. So at this point, do you want to go ahead and get into the plot?
Yes.
So would you say you're ready to scream, girl?
Come on, girl. Let's
scream. Okay. So, Halloween begins. Right away.
Oh my god.
We get orange font, bitch. We get the classic jack-o'-lantern against a black backdrop. And we get the iconic music. And as it zooms in, you can make out the silhouette of a man holding a knife in like the eye and nose of the pumpkin. And then we get the sound of children chanting over the credits where it's like, black cats and goblins, and it's very our intro. This month.
Yes,
it's very Shakespeare, you know.
Shakespeare.
And it's Haddonfield, Illinois. We get a steady cam POV, very iconic shot.
Yes,
of someone walking up to a white house, and they're watching a young girl and her boyfriend canoodling on the couch, fornicating. And we hear her go, I think Michael's around somewhere. Let's just go upstairs. And they go up to do the nasty.
Oh, yeah.
And the lights flicker on and we get the iconic like sound effect.
Yes. Oh, it's so good. And like the synth makes it so much like creepier because it feels so unnatural to like an environment that you don't expect like that kind of danger, you know, especially like a suburban town in the Midwest.
Yeah.
It's like, to have that like kind of futuristic spooky vibe, it's just like it clashes so much.
It
you know
does.
what I mean? But it makes it even scarier.
And the POV reaches into the drawer and grabs a knife. And 2 seconds later, the guy has nutted, I guess.
Yeah,
he caught his nut in 2 seconds. I thought it was so funny. Because he's like, bye. And the POV watches the guy leave and then goes upstairs while the clock chimes, which is really spooky. And it grabs a clown mask off the floor and places it over the camera lens. And then it goes into the girl's room. And she screams, Michael!
And she's also topless.
Oh, titties out.
Titties out.
Titties
and then she gets stabbed. I will say,
stabbed.
it's funny.
It's funny? What the fuck?
Just the like,
I've never thought this was funny.
this part's a little
hokey pokey. What are you talking about? No, it's not. I think it's freaky because he's like looking up at his knife while he stabs
Oh yeah,
her. Like he doesn't even give a shit about
what I'm
her.
saying is her reaction.
Her reaction is kind of like, oh. She's like, my titties. Yeah.
That's more what I'm saying. Not the like whole like him stabbing her. It's just more her reaction.
Yeah. He like keeps looking up like, am I doing it right? Ugh. It like grosses me out. And then he goes downstairs as his parents pull up and he goes outside and they come up and they unmask him and they go, Michael? And there's like this long zoom out as they discover him with the bloody knife. And we see who the killer is. A wide-eyed little boy wearing a clown costume. And I think he's like 6 years old at this point in the story. And we jump to 1978, 15 years later, at Smith's Grove Sanitarium on a dark and stormy night.
Michael was 21. He should have been at the club.
I know. Well, you know.
Well, he couldn't be there.
He wanted to, like, kill people.
People inside, so.
Whatever. And Dr. Loomis and Nurse Marion Chambers, which I like that name. Yep. Marion Chambers.
Diva. She is a diva.
She is a diva, and they're driving, and she smokes like 10 packs of cigarettes this whole car ride. Like this short little scene, she is huffing the cigs. And they're driving to pick up a patient. And they're like having this whole convo where he explains to her that this guy is no joke. And he refers to him as it and the evil. And they pull up, and all the patients are wandering around out in the rain. And they're like in hospital gowns. Like, what the fuck? And so Loomis gets out of the car to go check on the gate and figure out what's going on. And someone jumps on top of Nurse Chambers' car. And a hand comes down and smashes through the window and attacks her. And so she gets out of there, and he pulls a GTA 5 and like
he
yeets out of there. Yeah.
Well, I will also say something I love about this movie. He knows how to drive perfectly. He knows all the traffic laws.
Yeah. And it's not explained. Well, yeah, whatever. No, he literally, I love how he eats out. And it reminds me of, have you ever seen that video of the little kid being like, man, I finna whip this hoe? That's literally Michael. Man, I finna whip this hoe.
That's an old vine.
That's an oldie baguette.
Oh, back in my day, we had vines.
Man, I'm finna whip this hoe.
And so, yeah, Michael gets out of there, and Loomis freaks out, and he's like, the evil is gone! The evil is gone! So, yeah, they're fucked.
We know which one got away.
Yep. We go to Haddonfield on Halloween, and we meet Laurie Strode, played by Jamie Lee Curtis. I like this outfit. She's got her green turtleneck. She's got the feathered, 70s hair, the floral skirt, and like the little like stockings going on. Very conservatively dressed. This isn't the outfit. Now, when I play Laurie Strode on Dead by Daylight, I do the blue button up and the jeans.
Yep.
I do the classic Laurie Strode.
Yep.
But whenever I see
the
nighttime outfit. But when I do see another player wearing, the culottes or wearing like the green turtleneck outfit, I respect it. Because you
I need to get Laurie
paid
Strode.
for that Laurie Strode add-on.
I need to get that Laurie Strode.
Oh, you do? Decisive strike, girl. Decisive strike.
But you have to pay for Laurie Strode.
But it's so fun to like decisive strike on a hoe.
Yeah.
Be like, oh, decisive strike, bitch. I got away. I love doing that shit. It's so troll.
I was playing today earlier, and we bullied somebody playing the ward. It was
good. Some Dead by Daylight humor for all of you. But Laurie Strode is leaving her house. She's getting ready to walk to school. Her dad comes out and reminds her, don't forget to leave the key at the Myers place. She's like, I won't. We watch as Laurie starts walking, and she runs into the little kid she babysits. His name is Tommy. He's got a little coconut head haircut. And he is doing the like, well, why thing that I hate when fucking kids do this. Like, shut the fuck up. Well, how kids will be like, well, why? And you answer and they go, well, why?
Here's the thing with kids. Don't answer the first question.
Is that your strategy?
Yeah. Or you say, I don't know.
That's good.
Because then they're not going to come to you for information anymore.
Well, I think you're more of an Annie instead of a Laurie.
Oh, absolutely. I am Annie.
I think you're Annie. I think my dumbass might be Linda.
Yeah.
Totally.
Keaton's Laurie.
Yeah, Keaton's our Laurie. Bookish. Knitting. Always knitting and crocheting. Yeah. But yeah, Tommy's being just a little kid, and he gets sketched out when they have to stop by the Myers house. And Laurie is like, well, I just have to drop off the key. Like, it's all good. And he's like, don't go in there. The boogeyman lives there. And we see it is the house from the intro. But now it's all dilapidated. Like, no one's lived there since the incident. Da-da-da. She puts the key under the doormat.
Wait, what incident?
All right, we're ending this podcast. So she puts the key under the doormat, and we see Michael watching her from behind the door. He, like, pops out and is like... Bleh.
And I'm gonna be real. I think this is the moment. I think there's two... I have kind of, like, two things of why...
why he watches her?
I think he likes her, or she kind of reminds him of his sister.
Oh, yeah, of Judith. Yeah, 100%.
Because of her hair, the way her hair is.
Yeah. Well,
and then also
she looks. I guess now thinking about it, Judith looks more like PJ Souls' character.
That's how I feel. So that's why I go with more that. I think he liked her.
Yeah, I think she's just the first bitch to like walk up. Honestly, I think.
Yeah, maybe wrong place, wrong time.
I think wrong place, wrong time. I think that's all this is.
Yeah, maybe that's
and
it.
in sequels, they get into, maybe she's the sister. That's like a whole timeline they go down. And then in the newer ones, they're like, oh, she wasn't the sister. It was just random. And I kind of like that better.
Yeah, no, it's literally... they kind of go more the, like...
Wrong time.
Wrong place, wrong time. And he just was like, nope, she was the one I wanted to get. And I want to get her.
Yeah. She starts to walk away, and, like, Tommy goes. But we see... Michael comes out and watches her while she walks, and she's like singing to herself. And this is when we first hear his heavy ass breathing, because Michael, maybe number one asthmatic of all cinema.
Like, girl, get an inhaler.
Get the albuterol, bitch.
Like, we'll get into a scene where like, we'll get into it.
Maybe he has like allergies. Maybe he has a deviated septum. Maybe that's what this all is about.
Who knows? But there's...
He's just shitty because his allergies are so bad. And I can relate.
Yeah.
If that's what it is, I can relate.
I can relate, but...
But nah, he's just scary. We see Dr. Loomis at the sanitarium bitching the owner out and being like, how the fuck did you let this happen?
Yeah.
And the owner is like, well, how the fuck did he even learn how to drive? And Loomis is like, well, I don't know, but he was doing very well last night. Maybe someone around here gave him lessons. And is like, shitty. Like, I don't know, but help me, basically. And the dude is like, no fucking help. And Loomis is like, I'm wasting my time. So he gets in his car to drive 150 miles to Haddonfield. We see Laurie in class while the teacher is preaching on about fate. Now, something that I learned recently about like film theory. I never knew this, but it makes sense, especially if you go back and listen to our early episodes whenever we talk about teachers. But in movies, whatever the teacher is teaching about is usually the theme of the movie. And so she is talking about these authors who have both written about fate and how you personify fate in literature and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
We get the iconic scene of Laurie going to look out the window, and she sees Michael standing there across the street watching her, standing in front of the stolen Nurse Chambers car. But Laurie gets called on to answer a question, and when she looks back up at the window,
Michael is gone.
Michael's gone in the car. Just poof.
What is that? I'm gonna whip this out.
I'm gonna whip this out.
Man, I'm finna whip this hoe.
And at his school, Mr. Tommy is trying to carry a pumpkin home, and a group of bullies start chanting, "The boogeyman's gonna get you, the boogeyman's gonna get you." And they smash his pumpkin.
Yeah.
Asshole kids. Fuck them kids.
And then one of those little kids gets snatched by Michael.
Yeah, this is so funny. The kid, like, runs off, and then he gets jump scared by Michael, who just grabs him by the shoulders and just scares the shit out of this kid. But he lets the kid, like, go, but the kid is, like, shits his pants, clearly. It's so funny. And then he gets in the car and watches Tommy for a bit before driving off. Dr. Loomis has stopped by a railroad station. This is when we see the train. No, I was talking about right. And he's using the payphone trying to warn the Haddonfield Police Department that Michael's heading their way. But no one's taking him seriously. And so he just hangs up frustrated. And he's like, "It's your funeral, bitch." Yeah. He finds a broken down truck and sees Michael's hospital gown hanging off of it. So he runs off screen to like go to Haddonfield, and the camera pans over and reveals a dead body laying behind some bushes. And this is presumably where Michael got his like coveralls from. back at high school, Laurie is getting ready to walk home with one of her besties, Miss Linda, who I love.
Linda, you're Linda.
I'm very much Linda. And Linda is the girl who just learned the word totally.
Totally.
She says totally at the end and at the beginning of every fucking sentence.
Totally.
And I love her for that.
Yeah,
and I don't want Linda to ever change. It reminds me of Amber in Clueless, who is the girl who just learned the word whatever. Because she's always like, oh, whatever.
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 She even does
the W with her hands.
Whatever.
And so they're walking, and then their other bestie, my diva of the fucking movie, Miss Annie, shows up. She is already bitching. And let me tell you something about Miss Annie. All this bitch does is bitch and moan. And fucking roast the shit out of Laurie constantly. And I love her for it. She always goes, Laurie. Linda. Why didn't you wait for me? And they're like, we waited for 15 minutes and you never showed up. And she goes, well, I'm here now, aren't I?
Jeez, I am Annie.
Love her. Yeah, you're very Annie. Guys. I'm very Linda. Yep. We should go with them for Halloween. That'd be funny.
That would be a funny one.
And she's shitty because her boyfriend, Paul, who she calls El Jerko, got grounded for egging houses. So now they can't have sex at the house she's babysitting at. And I guess her whole thing why she decided to babysit was so that she could use the house to have sex in with El Jerko. So what's she gonna do now?
Poor Annie.
Laurie is more studious than her friends, who only want to talk about boys. And they chastise her for wanting to go back and get her forgotten chemistry book. But suddenly, Michael drives up. And Laurie recognizes him as the creeper from earlier. And he's like, kind of like, finna whip this hoe right past them. And Annie yells out to the car and she goes, hey, jerk, speed kills.
And he slams on the brakes. And just sits there.
He's like, what'd you say? And they're like, nothing. And he's like, just take a joke. God.
Yeah.
She's like, damn. It's not that serious. And so he like kind of stares back at them and then just like drives off. All spooky. And they continue walking and they're discussing their plans for tonight. So Linda and her totally boyfriend Bob are totally going to come by to the Wallace's house where Annie is babysitting that night so they can have sex upstairs. Which is weird. Yeah. That's like a whole part about this movie that I always forget is why are these teenagers doing this? They are gross and weird. Like, first of all, those sheets are going to get all smelly and sweaty and cummy.
Yeah.
And second of all, no. That's inappropriate. You're gross.
It's not your house.
So yeah, anyway, Laurie is babysitting Tommy 3 doors down. So she says, oh, we can keep each other company. They get to Linda's house, so she pieces out and they continue on. But then Laurie spots Michael several yards down the sidewalk, standing there and watching them. And then he slinks behind a hedge before Annie has a chance to see him. And Laurie's like, no, like, there is somebody there. It's the guy who was watching us earlier. And Annie doesn't give a fuck. So she goes up and she's like, hey, jerk. But no one's there. But Annie still plays it like there is somebody there because she's fucking with Laurie because she loves to fuck with Laurie. And she's like, oh, Laurie, he wants to ask you on a date. But Laurie walks up and sees there's nobody there and that Annie was just trolling, of course. And she goes, God, Laurie, you're such a whack job. Just imagining things. Scared another one away, didn't you, Laurie? And I'm thinking, damn, Annie, that's your friend, girl.
Damn, like
she does not hold the fuck up on poor Laurie.
Let's pull back a little bit. Like, roast every now and then, okay, but like, damn.
I know.
If you're getting all the hits in, it becomes bullying.
I know, exactly. There's a fine line between shade and reading, honey. Shade and reading. And so Annie goes off to her house as Laurie walks on. And Laurie kind of looks back before getting jump scared by Sheriff Brackett, a.k.a. Annie's dad. And he goes, oh, it's okay, Laurie. It is Halloween. I guess everyone's entitled to one good scare, huh? Which is a really iconic line that, like, in the sequels, they always use. They like to, you know, call back to the OG all the time. Laurie then hears some screaming. And she's sketched out. But it turns out to be little kids trick-or-treating on the block.
And she's just laughing about it. She's like, oh.
She's like, Horsey, you scared me. Kitty, you scared me too.
Kitty, you scared me. Horsey, you scared me too.
And she goes up to her room and she's looking out the window. She sees Michael fucking Myers standing there by the sheets that are hanging, being hung to dry. And she kind of like, oh, she blinks and like he's disappeared. It's like a really spooky shot.
Yeah.
And it makes you think like, did he run away? Or can he vanish? Or like, is she hallucinating? It's spooky. Then the phone rings and it's silence on the other end. So she hangs up. Then it rings again. She answers, and it's Annie. She was chewing on the other end before.
Yeah, she's like, why'd you hang up?
And it's like, why would you call me if you have your mouth full, bitch? Annie's just a troll. She's just a troll. And Laurie lies down in bed, and she's like trying to calm herself down. She's like, you're being ridiculous. Like, just calm down. And we see Dr. Loomis. He visits the Haddonfield cemetery. And he is being shown to where Judith Myers, a.k.a. Michael's sister, was buried. But Homegirl's tombstone is missing.
Michael is chaotic.
He's chaotic.
But that bitch dug it up with his hands. I don't think there's a shovel.
bare-ass hands.
There's no shovel.
That's the only thing that scares me is he's so strong. Like, impossibly strong.
It's like, this bitch is 21.
I know. And he's kind of skinny, too.
He should have been at the club.
He should have been at the club. That's what he was missing out on.
He would have loved Sympathy as a knife
By
Charlie XCX.
He would have loved Brat.
He would have loved Brat.
I think Brat would have fixed him. But yeah, Judith Myers' tombstone is missing, and Dr. Loomis goes, he came home. We then see Laurie leave her house later, and she's in the iconic Laurie Strode outfit, blue button down. She got her iconic 70s jeans.
Bell bottoms.
Those bell bottoms are cute.
Yeah.
Fun fact about this outfit and all of her clothes is that they were bought at JCPenney's for a budget under $100.
Hell yes.
I think that's so iconic. Miss Annie picks her up so they could drive around and smoke a doobie. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. They drive around and they smoke, which, you know, we've all done it. We've all done it.
Bitch, Michael pulls up behind them.
And they keep driving around until Annie sees her sheriff dad standing outside the local hardware store. She's like, my dad, like, put the weed out. Ugh. And they roll down the window to talk to him. He doesn't smell it, which I'm like, I know, and you and I both know that car would smell like gas.
We gotta let it around a little bit. See, if I was her, I would have been like, "Whoop, let's keep going."
Yeah, exactly. Oh, skirt. She's like, I'm finna whip this hoe.
Yeah.
Man, I'm finna whip this hoe.
But we learned that like somebody stole a Halloween mask.
Yeah, and some knives
and some rope. And I was like, but not an inhaler.
I know. Or some, like, Claritin.
Yeah, maybe some nasal spray.
Nasal spray. Sheriff Brackett is like, oh, I think it was just some kids. And he's always blaming things on kids. She's like, you always
think it's kids.
And she goes, it's hard growing up with a cynical father. And I think that's actually foreshadowing for Annie's fate, kind of. Because her dad is very cynical this whole movie and very skeptical of what Dr. Loomis is saying. And I think if he took Dr. Loomis a little bit more seriously, Annie's fate may have been different.
Yeah.
So I think in her case, it is hard growing up with a cynical father, you know? Meanwhile, we see Michael lurking behind them in his stolen car the whole fucking time in the background.
So funny.
It's so funny
like
when you clock it.
Like he's just parked there.
He's just chilling, yeah. But yeah, and then we see Loomis come up and approach the sheriff to be like, hey, you might want to listen to me because I got some crazy shit to tell you. The girls drive back to their neighborhood and they discuss the upcoming dance. And Annie is shook to hear Laurie admit that she has a crush on a boy named Ben Tramer.
Oh, we learned about Ben Tramer in the second
In the sequel. Yep. Just keep in mind Ben Tramer for next year, whenever we decide to cover it.
Oh, no. He comes back. Don't worry.
Anyway, so she's like, oh, you have a crush on Ben Tramer? I didn't know you thought about boys like that. Like, oh, okay, Laurie.
I thought you were a little
I mean, she is like high-key lesbian coded, I think. But it's like kind of a cute moment because, you know, it's finally, you can tell like Annie's excited because Laurie never wants to talk about sex or boys or anything like that. And Michael follows them to the street where the houses are, where the two girls are babysitting, and continues to just watch and stalk them. Loomis meets up with Annie's dad at the old Myers house looking for any sign of Michael. And he's like, everyone thinks this house is haunted. And some like scaffolding falls off and like breaks a window and it's all spooky. They find a freshly dead dog. He goes, he got hungry. Like, what the fuck? That's some scary shit. Loomis is desperately trying to convince Sheriff Brackett how dangerous Michael is, and he gives us this iconic monologue. He says, 15 years ago, I met this 6-year-old child with this blank, pale, emotionless face and the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. I spent 8 years trying to reach him and then another 7 trying to keep him locked up because I realized that what was living behind the boy's eyes was purely and simply evil. And that like might sound really corny, but like Donald Pleasance delivers it like perfectly. He's a great actor and like really sells this monologue.
Yeah.
Laurie is babysitting Tommy, who asks her, Laurie, what's the boogeyman? But then the phone rings. It's Annie, who is babysitting Lindsay Wallace across the street, a.k.a.
Kyle Richards.
From the fucking Real Housewives, bitch.
Oh my god, do you know who's going to be on Beverly Hills? Oh my god, why am I blanking on her name now? She's Bride of Chucky.
Jennifer Tilly?
Jennifer Tilly, she's going to be a friend of the show.
Jennifer fucking Tilly.
She's going to be a friend of the show in Beverly Hills.
She's so fucking iconic.
She played Bonnie.
In Family Guy.
Family Guy.
This food is so fucking good, Lois.
Wow.
Wow. This food is so fucking good, Lois.
Ah, okay. Wow.
But anyways, yes, Kyle Richards is in this. This is her one good acting role.
I don't know though. She kind of eats in the reboots.
When her thing is owning a bar and being and doing tarot. But then I always think of your aunt going on your Instagram. If y'all have not listened to the Strangers podcast,
I know.
Go listen to the Strangers podcast because you have not heard Aunt Chris.
Aunt Chris cracks me the fuck up. But the phone rings. Annie's babysitting young Kyle Richards, aka Lindsay Wallace, and she is telling Laurie that she might have scored her a date to the dance with Ben Tramer. Meanwhile, Tommy is looking out the window and notices Michael standing outside Lindsay's house, stalking Annie. Oh my God. So he freaks out and he's like, it's the boogeyman, trying to show Laurie, but Michael's gone. And Laurie like assures him, like, there's no one there, like, the boogeyman isn't real.
Yeah. But bitch, wait.
But bitch, just wait. We see that Michael has gone behind the house and is watching Annie from the kitchen, like, screen door of the kitchen. And this whole sequence, I'm going to call this the Annie sequence of the movie.
It is so well done.
It's extremely well done. It's one
so
of my favorite parts.
Tense.
It's a very long sequence.
Because it's such a, like,
It's basically Annie is getting into situations where she's very vulnerable and, like, very easily could be killed by Michael. It's just constant tension.
Yeah,
basically.
and it's very much the, like, bomb under the table where it's like, you know he's there.
Yeah.
And you know it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh my God, girl.
It's Hitchcockian in the way it builds the suspense.
It's so, like, I love it. I love how this is done.
Same here.
And it goes on, it's like, I think it's so well, like, it's long, but it doesn't feel long.
Yeah, it's paced wonderfully.
So well.
And we just love Annie. So Annie is a hot mess because she spills butter all over herself. And she has to undress and put on like a men's button-down shirt, which she mainly wears for the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
And Michael's watching while she's like getting naked. So like, ugh. But then the German Shepherd, Lester, shows up and starts barking at him. And Annie goes, Lindsay, Lester's barking again and getting on my nerves again. But then the barking stops and we hear a whimper.
Oh.
And she goes, oh, never mind. And we see the dog's legs go limp, implying that he strangled it. It's sad. I hate dog deaths. I didn't realize how many dog deaths we would be covering on this month of Let's Scream. But there's been so many the past couple weeks.
Well, no, the dog didn't die last time.
You're right. Thank God. So yeah, then Annie goes out to the shed to do some laundry. And we see Michael standing in the open doorway. One thing I want to talk about before we go any further is the lighting in this movie. Because I've never seen another movie capture what it actually looks like when it's dark outside.
Yeah.
Like, even nowadays, I don't know what it is, but they just don't have the technology to properly light outdoor night scenes as well as they did in this movie.
Dark.
Yeah. Like, it plays so many tricks on you. Like, and Michael this whole time, like, we haven't really talked about it, but they kind of hide his face from us. Like, you don't see the mask for a really long time. He's in shadow perfectly. Or there's like a door kind of in front of him, or a window kind of blocking his visage.
Yeah.
And you just never really see it. And that is in part to do with the lighting. It's just chef's kiss to the lighting.
Yeah.
So Michael's standing in the open doorway. And when she goes out to check, thinking it could be her boyfriend, Paul, Michael has vanished yet again. But then the door swings shut, locking her in. It's Locktober, baby. We got a Locktober
we gotta
moment.
Lock it up, baby. Locktober.
And Lindsay, little Kyle Richards, answers the phone. This whole time she's been like glued to the screen, like traumatized by the scary movie. I think it's The Thing that she's watching, which John Carpenter would go on to remake The Thing. So that's a fun little Easter egg there. But she answers the phone for Paul, a.k.a. El Jerko.
El Jerko.
And so Lindsay goes out to tell Annie he called, and she finds Annie stuck trying to climb out a window. And they go back inside, and Annie's like, don't tell anybody that I got stuck in the window, okay, Lindsay? Like, you better not. Lindsay answers the phone. Hey, Paul, sorry, Annie got stuck in the window. That was really funny. And so Annie's on the phone with Paul, and we get a cool shot that's tracking Annie as she paces back and forth. And one moment we see Michael behind her, and the next moment he's gone. Yeah. Annie asks Lindsay to go with her so they can go pick up El Jerko. And Lindsay's like, I don't want to go. And Annie comes up with the idea to pawn Lindsay off onto Laurie so that Lindsay and Tommy, who are like the same age, can hang out. And then Annie can go hook up with El Jerko. Michael pops out from behind a car with a wild sound effect. This is the da-da-da as he like pops out as he watches them cross the street while Annie drops off Lindsay at the house where Laurie's babysitting. Yeah. Then she goes back to Lindsay's house alone to go get the car. And it's super drawn out at this point. And you're just waiting for him to attack at any moment. And Annie keeps singing, Oh, Paul. Oh, Paul. I give you my all. So tall. Not you're so tall.
Go to the mall
and I'll lick your balls. Oh, Paul. Paul.
It's so. It just keeps going.
Well, because you know, like they were like, we don't have licensing for a song, so just make some shit up.
Just sing about Paul. She's like,
okay.
Paul. But it's also, I'm just like, yeah, I would do some shit like that.
Yeah. Very you.
I'm like, this is very
You're
me. Just
very
singing.
Annie. Very Annie
me
vibes.
singing randomly. Keaton can confirm. I just start singing randomly.
Keaton, give you my all.
Oh, Keaton.
So she goes out to the garage and she notices the car is locked. So then she goes inside She gets the keys. She kind of fixes her hair. She's singing about Paul.
Oh, Paul.
She goes back into the garage and she opens the car door without using the keys, and she doesn't realize it. Like, she gets in and she closes the car door, and then she's like, wait, I thought the door was locked. And you kind of see it on her face. She's like, wait, what the fuck? Then she notices there's condensation.
Condensation.
On the fucking window because someone's been in the car breathing in it. And just as it hits her that that's happening, Michael finally pops out. Da-da-da! And strangles her first and then slits her throat. Diva down.
And she leans, she falls forward and just
on the horn.
And I think it does it go to a shot of Laurie like in her house, and she can kind of like hear it.
You can barely hear it, but like no one would.
Or it just has a shot outside.
Yeah, it's like an exterior shot of the house, and like no one's gonna hear that, which sucks. I know, poor Annie, not my girl Annie. And the kids are watching The Thing, and Tommy is getting ready to scare Lindsay until he turns and sees Michael across the street carrying Annie's dead body inside from the garage. So he freaks out. It's the boogeyman, it's the boogeyman. And Laurie has to convince him yet again the boogeyman doesn't exist. We then see, this is a great scene, the shithead little bully kids that were bullying Tommy and Smash His Pumpkin. Mm-hmm. Now they're outside the Myers house. And Loomis has been like staking out the Myers house. So he's chilling there waiting to see if Michael comes back. Yeah. He sees these kids. There's this kid named Lonnie that they're daring to go up and go inside the Myers house. And he goes, Lonnie, get your ass away from there. And like scares the shit out of this kid. And then he has the biggest grin on his face. Like, hell yeah, fuck them kids. Yeah. It's so funny.
Yeah, y'all broke Tommy's pumpkin.
Yeah, fuck y'all.
Fuck y'all.
But then he gets jump scared by Annie's dad, who is getting impatient because they haven't found any sign of Michael, and he feels like Loomis is wasting his time. And he's like, this is just fancy talk, all this fancy talk. But Loomis insists that they continue to be on close watch, and he gives him another monologue, and he goes, I watched him for 15 years, sitting in a room, staring at a wall, not seeing the wall, looking past the wall, looking at this night, inhumanly patient, waiting for some secret, silent alarm to trigger him off. Death has come to your little town, Sheriff. Now you can either ignore it or you can help me stop it. Then we see Bob and Linda arrive at Lindsay's house to totally sex, bitch. They begin by totally making out on the couch while Michael totally watches. I like Bob, Linda's boyfriend.
Yeah. He's totally cute.
He's totally cute with his like,
totally cute glasses.
Totally aviator 70s glasses. And we see Laurie and the kids have carved a jack-o'-lantern. And Laurie is just the best babysitter. Like, not only
activities.
Yeah, not only does she carve the jack-o'-lantern, but she like presents it all spooky and is like, ooh, yeah. And like just having fun with the kids.
Yeah,
she's the best.
Oh, she's gonna be a teacher.
Yeah, that's
why in H2O she becomes principal.
That's why she becomes Dean Munch when she gets older. And then she gets a call from Totally Linda. Saying Annie is totally not here. So they totally have the place to themselves. So then they totally go up to have totally sex up totally stairs. And Bob puts the totally phone off the totally hook so they won't be disturbed.
Totally.
And these two are totally freaks. Like, who the fuck does this shit? How inappropriate. Yeah. Again, like, what the fuck? Then Bob nuts after literally 2 seconds.
Well, they're teenagers. Yeah.
I know, but like still, even for them being teenagers, it's like Bob, like damn. And we see the shadow of Michael looming over them as he walks past the bedroom. Linda makes Bob go get her a Totally beer from the Totally fridge. And he investigates the back door swinging open mysteriously. And Michael pops out of the closet, bitch.
And this is probably the most well-known death.
Oh, yeah. Because he, like...
chokes him and then, like, stabs him into the wall.
Bob's feet like just dangle down and go limp, and that also kind of always freaks me out. And then he uses the knife to impale him, and he shish kebabs Bob, and then he does his signature move, and he tilts his head like to the left and right, like how a dog looks at something curious, and it like makes me so uncomfortable. And fun fact, John Carpenter told Nick Castle, the actor who plays Michael, to look at Bob as if he were a butterfly collection, which I think is fucking weird and like very, very interesting direction.
But that's kind of how Michael is.
Mm-hmm. He's just so fascinated by death. Yeah. And then Stevie. We get the best part of the movie. Michael enters.
Linda is in bed.
Linda's in bed. She's sprawled out, first of all.
She's
filing her nails.
Oh, she's filing her nails. Yeah. That's what it is, yeah.
And she's like, just like fucking living. And
she's like, I'm so hot.
All sprawled out. And I wrote,
I'm like, girl, you did not even come.
Right. And I wrote that if it were a scary movie spoofing it, she would just let out a huge fart right there in this stranger's fucking bed sheets. Like, these kids are wild for treating these poor people's house like a fucking hotel. Like
my God, absolutely.
Michael enters with a bed sheet over him, like a sheet goes, but with just Bob's glasses on over the sheet. It's never not funny. I've seen this so many times. It fucking kills me every time.
So fun because it's the glasses.
The glasses kill me. And my dad showed me Halloween for the first time. And my dad was like, you're not going to fucking believe this part. And when it happened, I remember being like, oh my God, he's got the glasses on over. So funny.
And Linda's like, silly.
Bob,
totally.
You totally are fucking with me. Like, what are you doing?
Bob, you're totally crazy.
And then he's not responding. So to get him to like react, she pulls her signature move, which gets her titties out. And she goes, see anything you like? Which apparently was improv by PJ Souls,
Hell yeah.
who we love. And she goes, what's the matter? Can I get your ghost, Bob? And she laughs like she just told like the funniest fucking joke. And bitch, it wasn't even that funny. And Michael just stands there too, which makes it like really funny. And then she's like, okay, you're weirding me out. So she calls Laurie. But before she can speak, Michael comes up behind her,
strangling her,
chokes her with the phone cord. And Linda has this like orgasmic, really dramatic moan as she goes out. Which, like, first, damn diva down. Like,
diva down, love a diva down.
Love Linda. She totally did not totally deserve to get totally killed by totally Michael.
But she totally was.
And Laurie's freaking the fuck out because she's like, ooh, what the fuck? Well, first she thinks that they're having sex and she's like, you guys are gross. It's very right in front of my salad. She's like, right in front of my salad, Linda, you guys are gross.
Yeah.
No.
Are you serious?
Not what it looks like.
Right in front of my salad?
It's not
You guys are fucking gross.
But then it just stops. And so she's like, oh, what the fuck? And so Laurie feels like, oh, something's definitely up. Like, what the hell? And this is the first time that we get an actual close-up view of the mask as he just breathes into the phone on the other end. And like we talked about, the blacked out eyes are just so scary. And Laurie is now completely sketched out. And so she decides to put the kids to bed and she's going to figure out what's going on. We see Dr. Loomis discover Nurse Chambers' stolen car parked down the street. Yeah. So he's now kind of in the area and looking out for Michael.
Yep.
Laurie decides she's going to lock the kids in the house and walk over to Lindsay's house to see what the fuck is going on. Yeah. And this is when we get the na 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 na, like the
because it's like now you're like, oh
the suspenseful music.
You're like, shit. You're like, no, don't walk into it, girl. Don't go.
This is like truly the most iconic, like, oh bitch, don't do it moment of all horror. And it's very slow, like they draw it the fuck out, which is, it should be. And she goes over there, and when no one answers the door, she goes around to the back to find the kitchen door wide open. So she goes in and she's calling out their names, and she's like, you guys are pranking me, like this isn't funny. And then her tone of voice really starts to shift into like actually panic. Like,
Yeah, she's like,
no, seriously, answer me. And she sees light streaming out into the hall from the upstairs bedroom. And she goes in to find the diva, Miss Annie's body, sprawled out in like a crucifix pose on the bed with the Judith Myers tombstone placed behind her. And the single jack-o'-lantern is lit on the nightstand lighting the room. It's an iconic moment.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Laurie starts to like kind of freak as she's processing what she's looking at. But then she gets jump scared by Bob's body swinging down from the door frame behind her. And then she bumps into a cabinet and totally Linda's totally corpse totally falls into frame.
Totally.
So Laurie's freaking the fuck out, and Michael slowly fades out of the darkness into the background behind her. It's so cool. I love this shot. And he approaches her and slashes her arm with the knife, and we get a POV of Laurie tumbling down the stairs. And I think one of my absolute favorite horror movie chases is this scene.
Oh my
it's
God.
so iconic. It's between this and Sally running from Leatherface in Texas Chainsaw.
Yeah.
But this one is probably the most iconic one because first you get the dun-dun, dun-dun music. And Michael is walking at an eerily casual pace, but still manages to keep up with her as she runs fully. And then we see that he has jammed the kitchen door with a rake. And she's locked him out of the kitchen, but he starts smashing through the locked door with his bare ass hands. And so she tries to like unjam the door, but he's trailing on her. Like he almost gets to her.
Like she
so
smashes
she decides to just smash with her bare hands.
the glass.
The glass.
And then like moves the rake and gets out just in time.
She gets out just in the nick of time. It's edited like it's the perfect chase scene. It's the perfect chase
edited
scene.
like you think he's like, because like we don't know. You never see how close he is, but it's edited in a way where you're like, oh my god, he's right behind you.
Right there. It makes my butthole clench.
Yeah,
fully clench. But yeah, she escapes just in the nick of time, and she runs across the street screaming for the neighbors to help her. And she goes up to one neighbor, and she's like, "Please help me." They turn their porch lights on to like take a look at her. And then they just turn the fucking porch lights off and go to bed.
This is... If I
Fuck
were
those
Laurie
people.
Strode, the very next day...
If I survive this...
If I survive this...
I'm lighting a bag of dog shit and putting it on their front door.
No, I'm going to their house. I'm knocking at that door. And when they answer, I am just slugging them across the face.
Punching that motherfucker.
It's
so rude.
And she is screaming. I was like, maybe like it's because it's Halloween.
And they think it's a prank.
But I'm also just like...
She's fairly clearly in distress.
I'm like, no kid is like
there's no one's that good of an actor.
Yeah.
Except for Jamie Lee Curtis. And Michael continues to slowly pursue her. So she just goes to Lindsay's house again. And she realizes she's dropped the keys. So she throws a potted plant up at the window to wake Tommy up, who unlocks the front door for her just in time. And she gets inside, she locks the door, and she tells him to go upstairs. Do as I say now. And this is her very iconic line.
Yeah.
She'll say it in all the sequels too. It's just, this is a Laurie Strode thing, okay? Yeah. And she tries to call for help, but the line is dead. And then she notices that the window is wide open. And Michael pops up from behind the couch and nearly stabs her with the knife. He just kind of impales the couch itself.
And so she, with like reaction, grabs this knitting needle and stabs him in the neck.
Which I like that it's like a household item. Like she's always improvising her weapons. Yeah. I think that's cool symbolism of like domestic items that she's using to fight back at this like man. I like that whole like symbolism of that there.
But it just also shows how resourceful and smart she is. I think she's just like, she's a great final girl because she is very, very intelligent.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely the smartest final girl. I mean, there's a reason why she created the final girl trope.
Yeah.
And we get the iconic scene of her grabbing his knife for protection, and she peers out over the couch. But it seems he's dead. So she slumps over in relief and she throws the knife there. And she's like catching her breath on the couch. And then she goes up to get Tommy and Lindsay and tell them that she killed Michael.
Yeah.
And this is where Tommy says, "You can't kill the boogeyman." And immediately cue Michael walking right up the stairs. And this is really kind of our first instance in horror of a killer being kind of unkillable. It's because people have been like, oh, why did Laurie throw the knife away, this and that? Why is she just sitting there? Because, bitch, she impaled him through the fucking neck
with a knitting needle.
Like, that would kill you. So obviously she's gonna be like, I don't need
the force, because knitting needles aren't sharp, so the force you would have to do to stab someone's neck with that, like, that would kill them.
Right, exactly.
And again, this was in the 70s. There weren't a lot of horror movies like this for people. Yeah, because nowadays
she's not a screen character. If Laurie was a screen character, she should know.
Yeah, but nowadays we're at a time where it's like we're post Scream and like we're post all of this, where we see these horror movies, so we're like, oh well, I would in this situation.
Right? Yeah.
She didn't have anything like that.
She was the OG. Okay.
So she didn't know that like once you get the killer down, you're supposed to grab something heavy and smash their skull in. But
she did not know. So she has the kids run to the other room, and she lures Michael into the bedroom and tries to outsmart him by opening the door leading out to the balcony, and then hides in the closet. And she ties the closet doors together to lock them with like a shirt or something. Yeah. But he discovers her, and he starts smashing through the like wooden folded closet doors.
And she grabs like a hanger.
Yeah, improvises another weapon.
Unwiring it.
I mean, thank God for the wire hanger. I mean, Joan Crawford would be shitty, but thank God that there were wire hangers in this closet.
She was able to like twist it in a way that she could then like stab him in the eye.
Yeah, she gets him right in the eye. And then she uses his fallen knife to stab him in the gut. So he's yet again seemingly dead. And Laurie tosses the knife away yet again. Again, she's the final girl. She would know. So she goes to the kids and she tells them, do as I say now, again. Yeah. And she tells them to go and
run away and get help.
And call the police. Yeah,
run and get help.
And she slumps down to catch her breath.
And this is another, there's so many iconic shots.
Michael sits up behind her.
It's so creepy how he like rises up.
Dun dun.
Ooh! It's like it's so creepy how he just rises up.
I wrote diva up. Diva up. Because he literally does like a full-on sit-up, bitch. His abs are crazy. He must do a lot of core work in his yoga routine, because he just springs up. And Loomis is nearby looking around for Michael, and he sees the little kids running and screaming for help coming out of the Wallace house. So he knows what the fuck is up.
Oh, yeah.
He runs inside just as Michael comes from behind and strangles Laurie. And she, very smartly, snatches off his mask to distract him and get away from him.
Yeah.
We see for a brief moment his very normal dude-looking face, reminding us, this is just a normal guy under here.
Yeah.
And he puts the mask back on just as Loomis shoots him. Michael retreats into the bedroom, where Loomis finds his ass just standing up there, still breathing. So Loomis shoots Michael 5 more times, running out of bullets. And Michael is sent catapulted off the balcony. And we see him, like, laying there. It's like, doom.
Yeah.
Laurie goes, it was the boogeyman. And Loomis goes, as a matter of fact, it was. And I noticed on this watch, this acting from Jamie Lee Curtis is great, because every time that Laurie has thought that she has killed Michael up until this point, we can kind of tell that Laurie's definitely traumatized. She's processing, but she's going to be okay. Like, she's resilient.
Yeah.
But after this time, and when he says that to her, she starts to just sob. And it's like, oh, this girl's not going to be okay.
Yeah.
Like, she's broken now. It reminds me of Sally at the end of the Texas Chainsaw.
Oh, yeah, where it's like, oh, is she okay?
Like she's fucked up.
It's like she survived, but like, did she really?
Did she really survive? Like, this poor girl. And Loomis looks over the balcony, and Michael has vanished. So we get a montage of the neighborhood, and we hear Michael's breathing, and it's like, he could be anywhere. Where did he go? And the end, bitch. So scary. scary. And I watched this, I don't know why. I watched this last night with like kind of the lights off and my roommate's on vacation, so I was alone. But bitch, I couldn't sleep last night. It's scary. Because the whole ending is like, oh, where did he go? Is he at my house?
Where
like,
the fuck
is he gonna snatch me? So yeah.
That is
The
Halloween.
original Halloween. Love it.
Love it.
I think it's a perfect horror movie.
Perfect
10 out
movie.
of 10. One of the best. The sequels will get stupid.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I think we should maybe we can do this as a tradition. Every Halloween we can review a Halloween movie.
We can do that, yeah.
Yeah.
It's next year, Halloween 2.
Yeah.
So when everyone's like, when are you guys gonna do the Halloween 2? You'll know. Halloween.
Like you said last week. When the fuck do you think we're gonna do Halloween?
Well, everyone that we knew in person.
When are you gonna do Halloween? When are you gonna do
When are you
Halloween?
gonna do Halloween?
But here you go.
When do you think we're gonna do fucking Halloween? But yeah, that's it.
So we want to say thank you so much for joining us this month on spooky season of Let's Scream. This has been so fun.
And you know, Parker, we've been doing so many horror movies. Which episode is this? Like, we're in the 40s, right?
Oh yeah, this is episode 45.
I don't know about you, but I'm getting a little tired of horror movies.
My throat's sore because I just keep
I've been screaming too much.
screaming.
So I think next month we should take a little break from horror movies.
How about we don't scream?
How about we celebrate No
Scream
Scream
November?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've been planning this for a really long time.
Like, as soon as we came up with the name No Scream November. We're like, wait.
So we want to do this every year going forward. The month of November will be No Scream November. And we won't be doing horror movies. We're going to do other movies.
We're going to just pick some of our favorite movies.
Yeah. So
and we've got good ones selected.
We've got great ones this year. Yeah, I love our lineup. I'm going to do some of my absolute favorite movies that aren't horror.
That aren't horror movies.
So look forward to No Scream
November.
But yeah, until then, I hope everybody has a happy fucking Halloween. It's the best time of the fucking year.
Yep.
So let us know, again, if you have any fun Halloween plans or if you have any fun plans going into November. Mm-hmm. And again, send us requests for future episodes because we, after No Scream November, don't really have much of a plan.
Yeah.
We know what we're doing for March. But that's about it. So, yeah, keep sending us those suggestions and commenting and engaging with the podcast. Yeah. We appreciate you all so much. And yeah, I think that's all I have to say for spooky season.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add?
Happy Halloween, everyone.
Happy Halloween.
That's all I have to say.
Stay spooky.
Stay spooky. We hope you all had a wonderful time with us in Haddonfield and learning all about Michael Myers. Please remember to like the pod, give a glowing review of the pod, and share the pod with all your friends.
We are at Let's Scream Pod on everything.
On every social media.
So it should
We're
be
on
easy to
Apple
remember.
Music now, so you can listen to us on Apple Music.
And you can follow me at Parker_Will_C on Instagram.
And you can follow me at StevenAsh95 on Instagram.
And until next time, this has been
Let's Scream. Bye.